And the craziest thing about what happens in self-abandonment is I feel like we have this amazing ability to justify it to everybody else around us. When people are like, this is not good for you, this relationship's not good for you, this person's not good for you, you're becoming a a shadow of your former self, but you're like, no, but love conquers everything, and like this is the person I really need, or this is what I really like deserve, or etc. And it's challenging. Like we believe it so strongly. Our egos are so set on it that we'll convince the water that it's not wet. Almost, it's almost like that. So, okay, do you have your story ready, Ricky?
I think so. It's not going to be nice and clean narrative
Okay,
like we hoped, and it might not be as powerful as yours. But
whoa! Who said mine was going to be powerful?
You did. You said it would be powerful and we'd be bawling. So now I'm expecting to cry.
My bad.
I can think back when I was in therapy, and I had my wonderful therapist who I still miss. He left the state. I still think about him though. And he noticed I would describe myself as a raging extrovert. That's how I would talk about myself in therapy, because any given chance I had, I would go out with my friends. I would go do things, active things with them. And he noticed that I never spent any time alone, ever. And he challenged me to spend time alone. And I knew that this was a good challenge for me because I was terrified. I mean, I really the idea of spending an evening by myself was just something that I couldn't even, I thought, one, that won't be any fun, right? And two, I thought like, what are my friends doing that I'm going to miss out on? Or three, like maybe my friends need me, or, I had thoughts like that, but I tried it. And I remember that. Can you believe I remember the first night that I purposely stayed home all by myself, and I sat down on the couch and I was like, I don't even know what I like to do. And it was so heartbreaking. I thought back to a time before I'd been married and before I was in a relationship, and I knew there were things that I liked to do, but I couldn't even pull them out of the air. I had to sit down with a journal and think about like, what's a list of things that I might want to do when nobody else is around. Wow. And it was so depressing to think that I didn't even have that list just ready to go. It was not fun. It was not a fun evening. I cooked myself something that I like to eat, and I sat down and I channel surfed, and I did not have a great evening. And I thought, this means I need to do this more. I need to purposely put myself in this uncomfortable discomfort. And it probably took a week before I started looking forward to those times, because then I was intentionally exploring for things that I might like to do. But just that moment where I realized that I didn't have a self that wasn't there in service of other people. Like, here I am to entertain people and do what everyone else wants to do. There was no person there. And that was really depressing.
So, one thing I love about you, Ricky, when you speak is it's just so soft and feminine and melodic, and I love it because I've done a lot of work to step into my masculine, but it's just so like flowy. It's like a story, I just sit here and I just feel like enamored listening to it, and I'm sure everybody out there is feeling so similar.
Oh, and what a compliment! Thank you.
Of course, you deserve them. But one of the things I want to ask you out of that is, when you felt it that night, that you suddenly, you didn't have any plans, and your plan was to sit with yourself, but it felt like the worst plan you could make.
Yeah.
You said it felt scary. What else did it feel like to you at that moment?
Oh, crushing loneliness. So there was that too. I remember at my next therapy appointment, my therapist asked, he was like, what does it sound like when in your head when no one's talking to you? And it's like, when he asked that, I was like, oh my gosh, I've like been so busy trying to drown that out with other people's voices and company. I was like, I don't want to find out. I'm terrified. And one of those nights was just sitting, listening to the thoughts in my head. And he was like, stop running from them. See what that person's saying to you. So that was a little scary too. Wow. There was a lot of noise.
No, I can imagine that. Do you think that, and if I want to be honest to everybody here and give them like the challenge of knowing this, would you say that feeling when you first sat just by yourself and you didn't go and like run to hang out with everybody else, do you think that feeling was almost like, it felt like you were trying to break an addiction, like you were getting withdrawal symptoms when you were like, oh my God, I want to go out and hang out with everybody? Like, how many of you have felt that? I have literally felt what Ricky's talking about, where it feels like you, to step away from what you were doing, where you constantly like run to hang out with someone, or you want to attach to be with your partner, or you want to pick up your phone and text, like, exactly, a phone, text a partner, get on like dating apps or anything to just swipe and get that level of validation.
Yeah.
And when you don't do it, it feels almost like you've got withdrawal symptoms, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great way to describe it.
Crazy.
And that was pretty startling too, because I didn't realize I had some sort of dependency on getting the sound, the sound of other people's voices to drown out what was going on in my own head.
Just any sort of, like, I would say, almost not even just the sound of other people's voices. I would say it almost just resembles any sort of like human connection, from people coming your way. So it makes you feel like you have to spend, so it makes you feel better about just like being, because you're like, okay, people are like talking to me, someone like recognizes me, people are around. And for those of you who identify as the anxious attachment, I mean, Ricky can also tell you this, but that is something that is in our condition